regulating our bodies, it is such an important part of that. And you mentioned, I speak fondly of the Z's because for me, sleep was the biggest factor in that and contributing to, grogginess during the day, being irritable, and that was all coming from an irregular sleep cycle, which the
Yeah.
Z's line has completely changed for me. So grateful. The serenity during the day helps just with that sort of calm and focus that I need at work. So I
Yeah.
think the combination of those two have really contributed to regulating my system and just creating a new baseline that is focus and calm and with a regular sleep cycle, which I'm so grateful for. So that's the combination that I have found most successful for me.
That's a very good point. Creating a new baseline.
Yeah,
I'm going to write that down as soon
write it
as
down.
possible. Yeah, that's a very good and more succinct way of saying what I've been saying, and that is, if you feel better, then you can begin to heal. So it
Yeah,
does create this baseline. And the thing about CBD, it works best with over time with consistent use. Some people will realize the benefits in a few days, in a week, or something like that. Others, it takes a few weeks. So but as you would imagine with me, I take it every day, and it just helps. And back to the depression, I I had depression in a bad way, and I took prescription medication for 10 years. So for the first 10 years of my sobriety, I depended on prescription medication, and I'm not uh, and I think that's necessary and important for people. Uh, but for me, it started and it worked until it didn't.
yeah,
So once it stopped working, then you have to go through this trial and error process that just gets to be a little dispiriting at times, because it does some,
it does.
it doesn't always work. And so I have replaced that prescription medication with CBD. Um, and for me, it works every bit as well as a prescription medication did, meaning not perfectly all the time, because there are certain times where your stress levels are just so high that it's still going to even you out, but it's not going to tamp down your emotions to the point where you're catatonic.
Right, right.
So, so I would say that about just it helps, as you said, helps with mood and focus.
Yeah, I wanted kind of to segue too. I think that's a good point about adding more supplements or pills or things to our regimen where there can be sort of this hesitancy to dive into the CBD world or to add add another pill or add another supplement in recovery because we hear, we should be taking things away and getting back to our, unaltered state or whatever it may be. But I think that it may have created a hesitancy for people to embrace the benefits of CBD, and I want to help us to erase that. So, I guess what are your thoughts on sort of destigmatizing, I guess, that hesitancy about CBD?
Yeah, you are exactly right. Once again, my friend, some people see it as replacing one crutch for another, and of course, I don't see it that way. I think it's something. These are all natural products, and CBD works through something called the endocannabinoid system. It's a system of neurotransmitters that runs through your brain and throughout your body. And when you take CBD, what you're doing is you're replenishing your endocannabinoid system that can get uh, uh, depleted over time. So you're just adding back into the system to make yourself whole. It brings you back to uh, homeostasis or equilibrium. So it's not really adding to that. It's not going to get you high. It's going to balance you out. And uh, so that's what I would say to people in addiction and recovery. They shouldn't fear that it's going to be an addictive substance. It really is just going to help make you whole again.
That's right.
There are other hesitancies. Um, so CBD is derived from hemp, right? Uh, Hemp is a family within the cannabis plant. So cannabis obviously is where marijuana is derived from as well. So if you will, hemp and marijuana are cousins. So marijuana is very high in THC because that's what you want. You want that the THC to provide that high, and is very low in CBD. That's why commercial CBD is derived from hemp, because hemp is just the opposite. It's very high in CBD, very low in THC. And so by law, THC products cannot have more than 0.3%. So
Mm,
that's not enough to show on a drug test, and it's not enough to get you high.
right.
So there's a lot of misperception about that, is that it's too closely associated with marijuana, and I understand how that happens, but it's not the same. You won't feel
There is a line for sure.
a clear demarcation there.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are concerned. Will it affect other medications I'm taking? And people should consult with their doctor. The medications, the blood thinners is the medication I hear most often that CBD can interfere with, and so I don't think this is uh, I think it's an interference that you ought to be aware of, a side effect you ought to be aware of, but I don't. It's not a deadly side effect or anything of that nature. But it just won't be as effective for you, and you got to be careful if you're taking blood thinners. And there are a few others, so a quick search would be helpful to anybody that's starting it for the first time.
And always consult your doctor, of course, like you've
Yeah,
said.
yeah,
Thomas, we're heading into the holiday season if we aren't already in the holiday season.
yeah.
I wanted to talk a bit about some things perhaps we can offer our listeners who may be early in recovery, or perhaps their first holiday season, sober. And that can be tough. There's a lot of plans and parties and family and things to do. What are some tangible things or some takeaways that you would offer our listeners?
I'd also like to hear your thoughts on this, but
Yeah.
one thing that comes to mind for me is you got to recognize the temptations there, and you have to avoid those riskiest situations. Don't put yourself in harm's way there. So if you know there's going to be a whole lot of drinking or a whole lot of partying going on, then you just kind of have to remove yourself from that, and have an exit plan.
Yes.
Um, so I think it can be helpful as if you're obligated in some cases to go to these
Yeah.
parties and so forth, and I understand that. And if you are, it's a good idea to let somebody know, and they may already know, that you're in addiction recovery, and that it's kind of a buddy system, right? They can help look after you and make sure that help to kind of steer you away from those riskiest situations. I like to keep something in my hand, a drink of some sort, whether it's of course a non-alcoholic drink, but something festive can be fun. That's what I'd say. What do you think?
Yeah, those are good ones. Having the exit plan is very important to me. Drive separately if you need to. Park at the end of the driveway so your car's not blocked in, and you don't need to, raise your hand at the party or search through the party to get your car unblocked. I
Right.
like to, honestly, because in early recovery, it came up often for me that, we would have our meal and sit down and mingle for a while, and then I would stand up and put my coat on, and everyone, oh no, you're leaving, don't leave already. And it was this big
Yeah.
to do. So if I'm planning on staying for 2 hours, or if I know that it's maybe going to get rowdy later, I like to say, hey, I'm going to stay till about 5 o'clock today, or like I'm going to plan on probably heading out after the meal, just so you know, so that it's
Yes.
not a big to do when I stand up and put my coat and shoes on. And having that exit plan and my car handy, or Uber on speed dial, is super helpful. To kind of piggyback off having a drink in your hand, or Sprite or cranberry juice, whatever it may be. I found it helpful if it's a work party, or a party that there is alcohol, just to say, I'm driving tonight. You don't have to explain that you're in recovery, or that you have addiction problems. It's just as simple as that. I'm driving tonight. And if anyone questions that, then that's on them. That's not you.
Those are all very, very good suggestions. I completely agree. Even last night, I was in a tree lighting. I live in a tree lighting ceremony. I live in Maine. Kenny Bunkport was recently named as one of the most festive towns in all of America during the holidays. Um, and this tree lighting ceremony, and there must have been 10,000 people at
Wow.
this ceremony. We had dinner beforehand, and there was a bar attached to the restaurant, and you could just tell people were winding up. Right,
Oh yeah.
it was in
Friday night.
all the alcohol, and Friday night being a Friday night, and then when we went out near the tree, it kind of ramped up even more. A lot of drinking, a lot of you know fest, festivity, but
Yeah.
borderline, just a little bit of rowdiness there. And at times I feel uncomfortable by that. And now I'm at the point where I can find my way through that, uh, but not without thinking about it. And I'm still made a little uncomfortable by it. And I don't like to be in those situations. So I just think those are situations to be avoided as possible.
And always know your comfort level and listen to that. Listen to your gut, listen to your internal voice, and just, if you don't want to push yourself or go outside your comfort level, you don't have to. And it's better to play it safe, and not put yourself in those situations. So then you don't, you're not forced to make decisions perhaps in the heat of the moment.
And I liked your suggestion too, is you don't have to share with everybody that this is an issue for you and you're trying to stop. You don't have to go there. You can simply say, as you have suggested, I'm driving.
That's it.
We don't have to apologize for not drinking. And that's something too that now and at this point that I don't think about much. I don't,
Right.
I was very uneasy with it at first. But I'm not uneasy with that anymore. It's just part of my lifestyle, and it becomes as natural as not drinking becomes as natural
Isn't
as
it crazy that we are technically in the minority as non drinkers living in an addictive world, a world of people that consume? We, as people who choose not to partake, are the minority. It's kind of crazy, but to your point, it does become the new normal. It does become that sort of sense of comfort in a way of life that's not, it's not a struggle. Once we get past that, over the hump, and it becomes our new way of life. I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah, that's right. And I heard a long time ago when I first in the rooms of AA, if you have a shrimp allergy, you avoid shrimp,
Right.
right? If you have a shellfish allergy, you just shellfish. Well, we have an allergy to alcohol, and it's not terribly different, right? We just have to avoid it. It's just not something we can partake in. It's
That's right.
our physiology doesn't permit it. And it really is physiology. If they took that's one thing I like about CBD. It can break this psychological bridge that we have to those addictive cravings and those attractions to drugs and alcohol.
Well, Thomas, I so appreciate our partnership, and Exact Nature is our primary sponsor of the show, and we've had a great partnership. I really appreciate your contributions to the show. Our listeners, of course, can take advantage of TSD20 for 20% off anything on the site at exactnature.com.
In complete order.
Thomas White, founder of Exact Nature, thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, Nate, it's always a pleasure. And really, I can't thank you enough for the important work that you're doing because, it takes a village, right?
That's right. That's
You gotta approach this difficult issue on many fronts, and you're doing important work, and I have always respected and appreciated it and valued that.
Thank you so much. You're part of the Sobriety Diaries family. So,
Yeah.
listeners, you will see and hear more from us, our partnership with Exact Nature. Again, TSD20 for 20% off your order at exactnature.com. Thomas, we'll talk soon, my friend.
I look forward to it as always, Nate. Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
Same to you, my friend.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening today, friends. Hopefully you heard something that resonates with you. And if we help just one person, our job is done. Make sure you check today's show notes for all the information discussed in the episode and how to connect with our guest. And as always, check us out at thesobrietydiaries.com, youtube.com/Nate Kelly, and on Instagram at the Sobriety Diaries Pod. Please head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show, friends. It truly helps other people to find the show, and in turn, we can help more people. Until next Wednesday, try your best not to drink and be good to yourselves. Bye, everyone.